How's it going, everybody? It's me, Arctic, and in today's video we're going to be going over a team comps guide for Nahida. What I am going to be doing is giving you all some team scenarios for Nahida, basically what I think is going to work, and some tips and tricks to use with Nahida when she is in actual teams. Really, with her being the Dendro Archon, she can actually work in quite a wide variety of team comps, so we are going to be looking for some great ones to use today. Before we get into the video, a like down below would be very appreciated, and also if you don't mind subscribing, I am trying to get to 15,000 subscribers. It would really help me out a lot if you would subscribe, but anyway, let's get into the video. In this video, we're just going to be using the Dendro Traveler as our placeholder for Nahida, pretty much just because I don't really have Nahida on here because she's not out yet. So basically what we're going to be looking for is these other three slots for characters. So the first team scenario that I want to talk about is going to be the Bloom Nahida team comp, and that's pretty much using extra Hydro characters in your team. You basically can use up to 3 extra Hydro characters in the team, just because Nahida does have actually a good amount of application. What this also is good for is increasing the duration of your burst, because if you have Hydro characters in your team, I think you only really need 2 of them in order to get the maximum amount of her ult burst uptime thing. So yeah, what you can really do is you can switch out like Barbara for another character. You could actually switch her out for someone like a Kuki Shinobu, and actually then turn this into like a Hyper Bloom team comp with Yelan, Mona, and Nahida triggering like Bloom reactions, with Kuki Shinobu's like E triggering those Blossom cores into the Hyper Bloom, which could be pretty good, especially considering that Kuki Shinobu does have a high EM build usually on her. In terms of where Mona's placed in here, I would recommend actually using a Nilo if you have her, because Nilo's special Bloom cores actually give her a lot more damage. The only problem with that is that you can't use like Kuki Shinobu. You'd have to go back to like a Hydro healer like a Kokomi or a Barbara, or eventually a Dendro healer when we do get a Dendro healer. But yeah, then I would say you want your other Hydro character to be either a sub DPS like Yelan, or a main DPS like Tartaglia. Tartaglia really works really well if you are building your Nahida for more of a sub DPS role. I think this can actually work pretty well. But really you just want to create a bunch of Bloom cores with this. And then for like Hyper Bloom teams, I would recommend running a Hydro sub DPS with these Electro characters. You can basically rotate out if you are noticing that you're getting a little bit too much Electro application. You can rotate out for like another Dendro character, another Hydro character is what I would recommend more so than that. So you could basically use like Barbara, Yelan, Raiden Shogun basically to trigger those Hyper Bloom reactions, because you want to have a good amount of Hydro application with that. Teams we're going to talk about are going to be Virgin team comps, and this is basically just going to be using like a Hydro sub DPS. I wouldn't really recommend using a Hydro main DPS just because you would be getting a little bit too much Hydro application, but with a sub DPS this also works very well. One thing I would recommend though is actually swapping out one of your Pyro characters on here. Like Bennett's in here pretty much as a healer and also like can trigger Virgin, but if you have like a Dendro healer or something in the future, that could work really well. Or alternatively, you can just pop on a Barbara and basically just get a little bit more Hydro application and go for more of D-Luke, just triggering like Virgin cores and stuff like that. When we actually do get more Elemental Mastery focused Pyro characters, I think they'll work a little bit better than Diluc in this type of team comp. Even like a Hu Tao with like a Dragon's Bane polearm could actually work pretty well in a Virgin team comp like this, because you are going to be getting like Virgin reactions passively from Nahida triggering some of those reactions, and then also you still will be vaporizing if you are using characters like Yelan or Xingqiu as like a sub DPS, so it can work very well. For Burn Central teams, I would recommend running 2 Dendro for this, because you are going to want to have a lot of Dendro application. With Nahida, I think you are going to have a good amount of application with Dendro. I think Nahida is really going to shine in Pyro Burn team comps, just because like Nahida usually runs high EM, so if she's triggering the burn reactions, it's going to be very good. So you could get away with just using Nahida as the only Dendro character in this and just going like 3 Pyro and Nahida as the only burn. 2 Dendro is going to be pretty good, especially because of the elemental resonance that increases your elemental mastery and gives you some extra the elemental mastery for like burn reactions, so could be pretty good. But yeah, Bennett's a good option right here. You can use other characters like Xiangling. Xiangling is going to be very good because she has an elemental mastery ascension, and you can basically run like Dragon's Bane on her, something like that. Get some good burn damage. The thing is that we don't really have anything to increase like burn's duration, so it's really kind of short. And if you're not triggering it with your highest elemental mastery character anyway, it's gonna be a little bit yikes. I have tested around with team comps like this a little bit, but as soon as we get more like burn DPS characters like Dea potentially, I think we're gonna be seeing a little bit more from burn comps. But Nahida is very good in burn comps just because she applies Dendro while being off field, which is something that we don't really have too much. Especially with Dendro Traveler herself, actually, her like off-field application just gets destroyed and explodes with like pyro being applied real near it. And now getting into aggravate team comps, I think Nahida is going to be very good for aggravate team comps because her elemental skill does have a long duration and it's going to apply some Dendro off-field, so it's very good for main DPSs like Sino. And also, if you do run like a Kazuha or something in here, this can be very good for decreasing like Electro resistance, and also buffing like Electro damage, so can be very good. And if you want to go for a hybrid like spread and also aggravate team comp, I think just replacing a Kazuha or something for like a second Electro character like Raiden Shogun, Fischl, basically any of those type of characters can work. Pretty much just balancing doing like the spread reaction with Nahida, as well as triggering aggravate for like Sino or someone like that. Now if you are going for a Nahida main DPS spread DPS build, I think I would recommend going with 3 Electro characters and 1 Dendro character. What this also is great for is if you are running Nahida with the Gilded Dream set, you are going to be getting the 150 points of elemental mastery from its passive for having 3 non-same element characters in the team comp. It's also very good because you have basically 2 stacks on her elemental burst, which will basically increase the trigger interval of her elemental skill, which will just give her a little bit more trigger ratio type stuff. And then in terms of characters right here, yeah, you can use like Raiden Shogun, Yai Miko, Fischl, basically just have like 2 Electro sub DPSs or like a main DPS, and you can alternate around. You're pretty much going to be set as long as you have like good amount of Electro sub DPS. But yeah, really that's about it that I have to say about team comps for Nahida. It's not really that complicated just because she can like work in pretty much any team comp except like Geo, full Animo supports, and also I think Cryo. Like Cryo and Dendro can coexist with each other. I have messed around with that a little bit, having Dendro and Cryo on them and using that for like Superconduct and also Aggravate, which is quite interesting. I messed around with that with Sino a little bit, but for the most part, that's what you're going to be going for, is going to be like spread comps and also like hyper bloom comps or bloom comps is really kind of what you're going to mainly be going for with Nahida. But yeah, that's going to be it for me. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will be making some more videos upcoming in the future about Nahida and also Scaramouche as soon as we get some information dropped about him. But anyway, it's been me, Arctic. I'll see you all in the next one. Farewell.